And welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Stephen Cusin is our guest. He's our go-to guy whenever we talk about medical things. We'll be talking to him about Obamacare and about a whole bunch of other things. And Brian Howard. Brian is Executive Director at the United County Historical Society. We'll talk to Brian later on. They've got a cruise coming up, and Brian is going to give you a personal invitation for that Erie Canal cruise. And we'll talk to Brian also about the recent telethon, which was very successful right here on this station. But first, we're going to talk to the aforementioned good doctor. Good to see you again. How goes everything? Okay?
Great. Good to see you.
Good to see you again. Let's start off. I was just reading today that you're going to be spending some time out in Chicago, yes?
Yeah, it'll be back and forth. It's a company called HealthPoint. I'm their medical director. And the nice thing about it from the point of view of the viewers is this company pretty much embodies what medicine is going to be in the future. It's going to be determined by the private sector to a large degree, and this is the private sector. And it's going to be based on transparency of pricing, competitive bidding, shared decision-making where I come in, and getting good results at a reasonable dollar amount.
Sounds like it's going to be more business-like.
It's a business. Medicine is a business. It's a $2 trillion a year business. So there are a lot of people in line for that money. Because nowadays, when we were just talking before the show started, it's increasingly being recognized that medical care may be too important to be left to the doctors. The providers used to be the deciders, but no more.
Well, that gives me a chance to mention the title of your book, Doctor, Your Patient Will See You Now.
And that's
that same philosophy, right?
Patient-centered. Patients can accept their doctor's word on things. They can want to partner up, but they can also be managers in their care, and that's what my practice is devoted to.
The Shared Decision Center on Genesee Street.
Right.
And that really put you in line. I mean, this was kind of the stars aligning here, wasn't it, Doc? Because you've got the Shared Decision Center, you've got Obamacare, and now you've got this group out in Chicago that's hired you. That's all kind of aligned itself.
It is. Obamacare includes shared decision-making. It's a very important part of care because, number one, it's patient-oriented. It makes medical care less expensive in the country, which is why Obamacare has it, and it does tend to decrease the cost of care because people who do shared decision-making tend to choose either doing nothing when they have an option or when given an option between two things, tend to choose a less expensive one because when they learn about the latest and the greatest, sometimes they defer to the tried and true, like robotic surgery would be an example.
And what are you going to be doing for this group as the medical director? And how much of your time are you going to be spending here and there?
There will be training people to do what I do here. In the beginning, while it's cranking up, my office does telemedicine and teleconsults, so I can have up to 4 people on a visit sharing a screen and sharing the internet so I can show them workbooks and information regarding the decision that they're making. And so I'll be doing all of that for them until the volume demands that I teach it, mentor it, and then monitor it. Give
me, just so that people understand what you do up there in Genesee Street, give an example of a patient that would come to you for your expertise.
Well, just take a patient, well, think about any decision they have to make. Some seem rather minor to people, but if it's happening to them, it becomes very important. And some are truly monumental. People come in frequently for back problems. It's the second leading reason people go to doctors, and 80% of people in this country have back problems at one time or another. Sometimes they act too quickly and go right for surgery. Other times they are given medications that have side effects. Not a lot works terribly well, and sometimes patience is the best way to proceed. So we see a lot of people who are trying to decide, what should I do for my back? Is it surgery? If it is surgery, what type of surgery? If it's not surgery, what are the other modalities? Because for everything, there's options. Almost any medical decision offers alternatives. And these are not usually discussed in the office. The example I use, if you go to a Chinese restaurant, you're not going to find a BLT on the menu because they don't offer it. And if you go to a doctor's office that doesn't do a certain thing, they're going to offer what they do. They may mention it, other things, but they'll do it only to minimize it. That's what doctors do. They like to do what they do.
You know, it's funny you mentioned backs, because over the years I've heard this from so many people. On one side they'll say, well, you know, I've got these back problems, but boy, I went and I had it, tried to get it fixed. Don't ever have your back operated on again. And then I've heard other people say, you know, I was in such pain for years, I went and had my back worked on, operated on, and I'm a new person.
I think surgery plays a real role in back pain, but it's not the first thing to do. It's at the end of a long line of other things, and sometimes just what's called, the old days, we used to call it tincture of time. You take two people who develop back pain at the same time, acute back pain. In 6 months, if you've had surgery, you're feeling a lot better. In 6 months, if you didn't have surgery, you're feeling the same way. So people who have back surgery said, I got it and I feel terrific. But there are other people who don't do the surgery and they feel just as good. It plays a role at the end of the determination of other things that are safer, easier, cheaper, and less risky. Back surgery isn't terribly risky, but there's a whole literature on failed back surgery. And what's your second and third back operations? Then you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah. It sounds like you are in favor of Obamacare. Very controversial, of course, since this all developed. It sounds like you're in favor of it, though.
When I say I'm in favor of it, and the viewers out there are saying, oh, it stinks, 60% of the people really don't know what Obamacare is about. And that's okay, because if you read Obamacare, it's almost impossible to get through it. But the short version is, any law that takes 35 million people who have no health insurance and gives it to them can't be bad. It seems to me in this country, medical care should be as inalienable right as freedom of the press and freedom of speech and freedom of religion. You can't have happiness, health, without it. Life, liberty, and a pursuit of happiness, they can't happen if you're sick and have nowhere to go, or the care you get is poor because you have no insurance. So just on that fact alone, the fact that there's a cap previously that insurance companies would say, we're not paying anymore. Now there's no cap. If your kids are 23 or 24 and they have no jobs, which is common now, they're now insured up to 26. If you have a pre-existing condition, insurance companies cannot turn you down any longer. And so I think that on some of those issues, it's beyond dispute that 35 million people are now covered. There'll be pain. Next year is going to be a bumpy ride.
We come back, let's talk about young people and the ride they've got ahead of them. It's a little bit different for somebody my age, but for a young person, the challenges they are going to face are going to be a lot different, I would think. We'll come back, we'll talk about that. Dr. Stephen Cusin's our guest. We're talking medicine. He's the shared decision. Are you the executive director, the president? Probably the president, right?
Yeah.
Shared Decision Center up on Genesee Street. We'll be back with the Good Doctor right after this. Stick with us. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us. Dr. Stephen Cusin's our guest. We're talking medicine. He's our go-to guy for all that. Hey, you know, I was wondering about this during the break. Online, we're all online these days. We're all checking out websites. My guess is there's a pro and a con to this, and that is when you get a symptom for something, you go online and you look it up and you're either scared to death or you're whatever. Is there a pro and con to looking up your symptoms online?
Mainly cons. It's called cyberchondria. Looking up symptoms is dangerous because the people offering the advice are of completely unknown provenance. You don't know where they come from. Some of them are out of step, some of them are out of line, some of them are out of their minds. Looking up a problem that you have is a great idea if you use the right site. And the simplest way to know you're on the wrong site, if there are ads, you're on the wrong site. Sorry, I know media uses and lives on its advertisements, but when you're getting medical advice, you'd like it to come without ads because then there's no conflict of interest. MedPage Today, 3 syllables, right? MedPage Today, something like that. Okay. MedPageToday.com. You can download it to your iPhone. You can have it on your computer. It's a daily newspaper. It's a search engine, completely non-biased, evidence-based. Terrific way to look up information and try to use medical terms to a degree. But if you look up headache, it's going to run anything between sinuses and tumors, and it's not helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's common.
Young people, the challenges that young people face today in terms of their medical care, they've got to look ahead down a road that's maybe not that certain.
Well, the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, is going to help young people. It allows them to be insured through their parents up to age 26. That took effect 2 years ago. But if you're 26, like my son is, and you have a good paying job, which he's got, would you have any idea of how much he's going to pay over his lifetime for medical care out of his pocket? It's unbelievable. $2 million, or $1.8 million out of pocket. And that comes through a variety of ways that he's paying without even knowing it.
Such as?
Well, 1 out of $5 spent by our government is spent on health care. So when you pay your taxes, 1 out of $5 is being spent for health care. You pay for your, partly as an employee, you pay for part of your health care and for your deductible and your co-pays. But your employer could pay thousands of dollars more, and that money could have been used for your salary, but it isn't. And people think that their perks are giveaways. They're not. You pay for your perks. You pay a Medicare tax, which is increased with Obamacare to 1.5%. You pay for Medicare. It mounts up, and it mounts up a lot over 40 or 50 years of employment.
When speaking about young people, I'm trying to remember when I first went for a annual physical. I can't remember how old I was. When should somebody go for a physical?
You can make a perfectly good argument for never going, and those arguments are made. What's routine in medicine shouldn't be routinely done. It's a good idea to go to have a doctor and go periodically to keep a relationship, ask questions, and there's certain things that are good. Blood pressure is good. Cholesterol is nice. Blood sugar now and then, but these can be done every few years. A colonoscopy, of course, a colonoscopy, we know that. But not many things should be routine, and they're being questioned. Every woman, or at least most women, probably think that breast self-examination is a good idea. It's not. Even doctors examining breasts, not a good idea anymore because there's so many false alarms. And so routine care is routinely overcare and sometimes dangerous. But having a relationship with your doctor, cholesterol, sugar, blood pressure, those kind of things are a good idea. And
it's, I would guess too, Doc, that it would set up a baseline for further on in your life.
No doubt. And it's good to have a relationship, someone you can count on. I consider primary care people to be anchors. They're the people you hang on to in a storm. They're the people who keep you steady. They're the people who refer you to the subspecialist or don't, depending on their tolerance to making a referral.
You know, you mentioned breast exams. In the news right now is Angela Jolie, and she had a double mastectomy, and there's a lot of news about this right now where they're having this, women are having this done because of their family history and their risk.
Yes, she did it for a very good reason. She had what's called a BRCA1 gene mutation, which every woman could be tested for, BRCA1 and BRCA2. She had about a 50 to 60% chance of developing breast and or ovarian cancer. And many women, or in fact most, it would be advised to have the prophylactic mastectomy. She had a very specific type. There are so many different, that's where shared decision making. I need a mastectomy. Fine, what kind are you going to have? You mean there are different types? There are several different types, and some of the best ones are the ones least often done because they take a lot of work and a lot of expertise, and they pay the same as a regular mastectomy. So she had a nipple-sparing mastectomy, and she'll have, no doubt, a terrific cosmetic result, and that's on the list of things to do versus just a simple mastectomy or, God forbid, a radical mastectomy. The important thing is no one would doubt that Angelina Jolie did the wise thing and the right thing, and the fact that she's speaking up, I think, is a great public service. What bothers is that some women who have garden variety breast cancer, who have no particular risk for developing cancer in the other breast, they often choose to have bilateral mastectomies, have the healthy breast removed. And sometimes it's really not necessary. It's over-treatment. And some 30% of mastectomies are done for indications that are poor. Hers was not.
On a different subject, a friend of mine has no family. He's got some serious medical conditions, but he's got no family. That to me would seem somebody that could use someone like you, yes?
It's always, well, I'd like to be help to anyone who thinks that they have an issue or has a question or feels confused. A lot of people who have no family history because they're adopted and have no access to the records, which is now not looked at pleasantly. People get access. They do their genome sequencing and look at their percentage risk for certain diseases, strengths and weaknesses in getting your genome tested. Soon it'll be pretty cheap.
But what I was getting at was somebody that could, if they were in the hospital, no family, somebody that could be an advocate for them when they were sick or they were in the hospital, nobody could...
Oh, yes. I was thinking of family history. Having someone at the bedside, if it's a family member or a friend, I mean, if you're in the ICU 24/7, it's very, very important to have a mediator there. I go to the hospital and I have a hospital service where the patients have my cell phone. They have a computer I give them that's preloaded with information so they could do the research in conjunction with discussions with me. But people can have family members or friends on a rotating basis, particularly if you're very sick and particularly if the illness is affecting your ability to think carefully, because the sicker you are, the less able you are to make decisions.
And it's such a confusing time anyway.
Oh, it's confusing,
you know, you're not feeling well, and you're in a different environment, and everything is being thrown at you. Organ donations. We've never talked about that when you've been on.
In New York State, it's easy to become an organ donor. It's called Donate to Life, or Donate Life, I should say. When you sign up for a driver's license or renew a driver's license, voter registration, or a state ID, you can opt in by signing it. You don't need anything else. You can have a little heart symbol put on your driver's license so they know immediately that you're a donor. But there are some people who think that opting in for organ donation by having to sign something, that's why very few people do it. Doing something is sometimes difficult. There's too much inertia. Some people want to make it the opposite. Instead of opting in to be a donor,
opt out.
Opt out not to be a donor. But here you can be a donor through Albany Department of Health and the Department of Motor Vehicles.
As somebody told me once, in fact, they were the folks from Albany, the transplant center down there, they said the important thing is to let your family know what you want.
Very important. Even though people who die under care are immediately put against the register to see if the registry to see if they could be donors. Having a family member aware of the fact that you are going to be selfless at that terrible time to donate eyes, heart, liver, kidneys, lungs. More and more organs are amenable to transplant now.
Come back and see us again soon, will you?
It's good to see you.
But next time bring the book with you so I can hold it up to the camera.
I forgot the book.